All right, let's build some employee entrance signs for the casino here. So they're going to be sort of a tubular frame with panels inside, welded inside, and then panels that are put in afterwards that have inserts. So anyway, so we got different parts here. We got some 090. These are the hardware covers when they mount. Those were added later. Let's go over that. You've got your 1/8 inch frame panels on the inside, and we have the inserts. These will just go to vinyl shop and get a graphics put on them. So deceptively simple looking because it's a frame, but we got to make sure there's a lot of pitfalls that that could go wrong. So we got to make sure we cross our I's and dot our T's, right? So here's your cut list. Basically, that's where it starts with this project. So order in enough 1x3 rectangle tube. These are spaced out at 20 feet. And then you're also going to need some 1/2x1 for spacers for the panels. So make sure you got enough there. That's 16 footers. So we're going to need a few sticks. So bring in all your material there. Now, as far as cutting, obviously you've cut metal. I get it. But when you're trying to trap a panel that is CNC accurate, so this is 14x20 CNC accurate, and you're cutting with an old janky saw, it's one thing to just cut the long end to 16. The important thing is to make sure that the inside is what you want, 14, and cut it proud, if you will. Cut it a little bit big, right? Because you want this to be a little bit bigger than the panel. That way your seams come together. Obviously, if it's too short, so the most important piece is the horizontal piece, the top horizontal piece. Because obviously if this is short, you'll never get this to meet, and then the outside seam will be rubbish. So again, don't just measure to the outside. Measure the inside and make sure that is accurate, 14 plus. And then the inaccuracy of the angle here, this might be a little bit longer, not to worry. The 60s aren't even that as important because they can vary a little bit, but it's the width of the panel. And then the important thing is once you get this cut at whatever this is, then these need to match that. So that way they match up properly. So the 14 and the 16, but the inside of the 45 is the most important dimension. There you go. So once you get that set, you're going to grab, since there's 2 each of these signs, you need 4 base pieces. So grab 4 of these 16 inchers, and then you're going to take your drill templates and you're going to get the bottom pieces ready. So you're going to go ahead and get the bottom holes drilled and jigged up and all that. So look for the 5/32 top jig and look for the bottom jig this side up. The other one that says install template up, that goes to install. You can give that directly to Jonathan or whoever, make sure they know what's up. Label it and give it to them. Anyway, so once you get these 090 pieces washed up and bent, then you'll be ready to do this part. So grab your base piece. Base, how low can you go? So take your 16-inch base piece here and start with your top jig, and that's 14 inches. That will fit right along the top here. Have that on your table, clamp it down real well, make sure it matches up, and then drill these out for rivets. So 5/32, all 6 of those. That's the top piece. Then go ahead and take this bad boy, flip it over on your table so it's the long side up, and then take this jig that's facing up, so it's flipped. Go ahead and clamp it down. This will match your 16x3. That'll match the bottom. Line it up as best you can. And then take this out to 5/32. Drill out 5/32 holes, all 4. And then go ahead and open these up to 3/8. You see, we want these to be clearance so there won't be that much issue when they go to frap it down with the blue screws. So once you have the 6 holes on the top piece and the bottom ones are completely drilled out and good to go, then go ahead and take this piece and rivet the 6 holes. Go ahead and rivet this piece down to the top of the bottom piece here. So you'll go ahead and put that bad boy right there, rivet it in place. Then you can use these holes as to finish out all the drilling. So these 2 end holes here will be 5/32, and that'll be for a number 10 screw, and that will be for the cover. And then you can go ahead and take the 4 mounting holes and you can basically just drill them directly out at 1/4 inch and just go through. And then you'll have already drilled the bottom and it corresponds. So you don't have to try to, match the holes all the way through. Once you have that all done, then this piece is ready to go. I went ahead and clearanced the edges here. That's why these have such extreme bends. These will be out of the way for you to go ahead and get your welding gun in there, and you can burn this real good. So once you have the bottom pieces set and all the frame pieces are cut, then you can go ahead and set this up on your table, and you'll just go ahead and trap the framing around the panels. So you have two of them that have two panels as such. So you'll trap it, and then you have two of them that are just a single top panel up here. So just make those as needed. Obviously, splitting a piece of 1/8 between 3 will give you a 1/16 off. So you can either take a piece of 1x1 and then do a piece of 3/8 and then a piece of 1/16 and then try to get that perfectly even, or you can just take 1.5" square tubing and create blocks underneath and put the panel down and just hope nobody's going to go out there and measure whether you're a 1/16 off either way for something like this for an employee entrance. But if it is important to you, you'll have to then shim it up to get this perfectly centered. Once this is on your table and you've brought these pieces around, then you'll go ahead and tack all of it around like a stop sign, like we would all the way around the framing. Now I'm going to talk to you about possibilities of what you might want to do to strengthen the seams. When you're doing this kind of an angle structure or a tube structure, you can't weld on the outside corner. You can, nobody says you can't, but you're going to destroy that edge, and then it's a lot of sanding and grinding and trying to make it smooth, and it never looks good. Also, it's just a lot of work. And not to mention, it's not very strong. Unless you can mill this flat and then TIG weld it, that's really the only way you're going to get strength. So one way to do that, we've done this in the past if it's necessary, is you're going to, if you cut some, these are 1.5" angle pieces, you can cut them to where they're, these are 2.5 inches, whatever, as long as it just fits inside, it's arbitrary, it doesn't matter. Then what you're going to do is on the end here of the tubing, right about here, you just drill 3 holes. These are at 3/8, so you drill 3 holes, and then you drill on the top part here, you drill the same 3 holes. Then what you do is you insert these clips and you make sure that they are inside. If anything, you'd make sure that they can't be outside, because then obviously nothing will match up and then you're crying. Also you're fired. But also, so what you're going to do is move this in a little bit, but you go ahead and plug weld or rosette weld these 3 parts right here, and I would start with permanently mounting it to the top bar. And then once you get those welded, then you can introduce this into here, and then you'll have your 3 holes here. So that you'll do your face weld here. The problem is we're not going to be welding along this seam on all of these inside pieces because we want it to be sexy and we don't want to build up a weld right there. You will be able to weld on the bottom, and I definitely would weld down here because there's no panels. So go ahead and weld here and here for strength. But you're not going to have the opportunity to burn this seam very well. So if that's the case, then that's where these clips and this method of being able to add strength and transfer the load coming through this way down to here, and just instead of just having this face seam, which we know a butt seam is the worst seam. A butt seam is the weakest seam there is, and especially if this seam is only going to be 3/4 of an inch of weld, it's just going to peel right off. So essentially you'd only be relying on this weld here along this part, and then this really doesn't count. So if you want to, maybe on the bottom, you do this method where you do the 3 holes and the 3 holes on both sides and weld in these clips to add strength. It's up to you if you think you need that. By moving the mounting bolts to the top of the bar and coming up with this cover here, that also will strengthen this quite a bit. So it might not be necessary to do these clips, this clip system, if we can weld really well along here and weld as best we can on the face. And then the fact that the live load coming down the face of these pipes or these tubes will be transferred directly to the top of the bar and then down, rather than relying on all of this stress to come along here with these crappy welds. and then just relying on the bottom here to be loose, and all this isn't going to work, because you can see where the live load will come down the face of this beam and then won't get transferred to here as well, and this will just want to break off. So doing it this way might negate having to do this, but it's up to you. So if you need to do this, or if you want to do this method with the piece of angle on the side, then you need to drill these first. So before you go and weld all this together, you'll do your bottom piece here, and then you'll go ahead and just drill, and you can just do these on your table. Like I say, this is a 3/8 hole. And then just drill those through. If you do this, you want to make sure you scrape with a file, get rid of all the burrs, so that way this little piece of bar sits flat. And then, like I say, go ahead and get that clamped in there, and burn this permanently to this side first, so that way this is a single unit. And then you go ahead and bring that in, and then go ahead and weld that. Rosette welds, if you don't know, you start in the middle and get a good heat going first, and then you melt in the sides, and then completely fill it up. All in one shot, don't stop. Just go ahead and start welding, bring it out in circles, fill it, and then you grind that smooth and just bond to it. So it might not even be that big a deal up at the top, definitely, but you might want to consider maybe on the bottom. But I'll let you be the judge of that. But you definitely want to weld in here, weld in there. You can face weld along here. So welding on the inside here, obviously you're going to tack all the way around. Make some decent little tacks, some semi-welds all the way around. Get in the corners of the panel. Get in the corner, make sure you do that, and then just go ahead and evenly put the tacks all the way around. Like I say, maybe just little beads, because it's going to need some strength. Now you can run a bead at least to here, right? So this is a 1/2 inch from here to here. So you can run a little bit up the face or along the seam on both sides. And even if it goes a little bit past, no big deal. It's not that big a deal. We just don't want to run this bead all the way out to the face and then have a built-up fillet weld out here, right? So, but yeah, you can be a sneaky little 1/2 inch weld here, kind of run up, but essentially you're going to run your welds all the way around the panel. So go ahead and get those all done, jig them up on your table, and then once all that's done, and like I say, you're going to burn this for sure when it comes to do this bottom. It's up to you whether, like I say, you want to do this clip method, but you definitely are going to get in here. Like I say, you can see where this will be riveted on first, the purple piece, but I got it out of your way. So make sure it's super important, this fillet weld, and then the face weld there. Let's see, so that takes care of that. And then what you can do is either tack, just do tacks along here. You're going to be tacking the 1/2 by 1 inch pieces to the face of the panels on both sides. So this is your 1/2 by 1 inch piece there, part of this whole collection up there. Now you can either just Lord slap them down, or you can go ahead and just tack them on for speed. It's up to you, and it doesn't have to be perfectly laid out like this, but I essentially have on center 3 inches from the side of the frame. These are 8 inch on center. Just kind of eyeball it, put it in there, because what they're going to do then is this will give them a place to put some tan double stick tape, and then they'll just put their inserts right in there and stick them onto that, and then that'll allow that to float over your welds and kind of bring it out a little bit, like we do the stop signs. So that's your kind of dealer's choice, however you want to stick these down, if you just want to do a Lord's party real quick, or if you just want to go and tack them on both sides. But anyway, so I think that should do it. And then once this is all done, you've got all these drilled through, then obviously you'll just have 2 number 10s that fit that piece over the hardware there. So that'll just slide on, and you'll have the 2 screws, but that'll be mostly for install to cover up the hardware once they're all done. So, but yeah, I think that's it. As always, if you have any questions, just give me a holler.